let's get right into this review for Wolfman. Alright, so Wolfman is another horror film to come out in the first month of 2025. This film is directed by Leigh Whannell, who created one of my favorite films back in 2018 called Upgrade. It was one of those films I went into blindly, and honestly, it caught me by surprise in a good way, and I love the originality of that film. And I'm glad to see that he's been directing a steady flow of films up until now. Anyways, so how was Wolfman? Unfortunately, it wasn't all too positive. I'd go as far to say that in the early stages of 2025, this is definitely the weakest cinematic experience this year. But before we get into the negatives, let's talk about the positives first. As we know, the movie here is quite literally about a man turning into a wolf man, and I thought the showcasing of that progressive transformation was pretty interesting to see, and I continue to like the execution of how they showcase the alteration process up until the third act of the film. Another part of the film I liked was the set location. The forest ambiance really came through, and I appreciated the visuals that were paired with the story. Sound design was pretty darn good in several moments too. I loved how they played around with the noise and dialogue, especially when it came to the Wolfman's perspective. That was pretty clever, so cheers to the team for incorporating these creative decisions into the film. Lastly, I found the runtime to be pretty solid. I never found the story here to overstay its welcome. Now to get into the negatives, I thought the story was pretty lackluster. There's no real depth to any of the story elements involved, and there are plenty of predictable moments throughout the story. It's safe to say that the narrative here never reaches past the B-tier level of storytelling. As a matter of fact, I sometimes found the plot to even dip into the C-tier territory as well. Another problem I had with the film was some of the bare-bone characters involved. We don't really get much development for these said characters, so during certain pivotal moments, I never got the impact the film wanted you to emotionally feel during these segments. Also, the acting in the film for the most part was fine, but I thought some dialogues, especially when it came to the interaction involved with the daughter, made some of the acting presentation sort of stiff. There'd be moments when the dad and mom are talking to their daughter, and it primarily felt like exposition directed at the audience, and not necessarily something that you would normally say to your daughter in those heightened situations. It overall just felt unnatural and kind of odd to me. But for the majority of other moments, I thought the acting was solid for the story being told. My final negative is that the horror aspect was also fairly predictable and not as intense as the trailers might make it out to be. So those who were in it for the jump scares or thrills are going to be disappointed with the overall cinematic package here. And now with everything considered, my final score for Wolfman ends up being 6 out of 10. There's definitely nothing special here to elevate the horror genre in 2025. There are some cool moments that save the film from being completely disliked by me. I think if you're either into the Wolfman mutation element, a mediocre time with a B-tier story, or if any of the trailers piqued your interest, then I will say there's definitely some fun to be had here. For anyone else expecting something more from the film in the narrative department, it's definitely going to leave you feeling disappointed. Anyways, thanks for checking this review out. Make sure to subscribe and hit that like button once in a while. It really means a lot to me, and I shall continue to pump out more reviews. But until the next upload, stay safe out there, and peace.